HAW
547.
547, straight out in front.
What was the number?
547.
547.
HAW 547. The trunk is open on it, and it's sitting there right in the middle where you can't get by it.
Second act.
Hey, Rusty.
Yeah,
How'd the eyeballs come out?
came out fine.
Good.
Yeah, they put in another one and it's doing great.
You can see better?
Oh, fantastic.
Do you golf any better?
Well, I haven't had a chance to try that.
Hey, you need to go out and play tomorrow.
I'll play tomorrow.
We had it done Thursday.
Hey, you know what? As the rain starts, when you drop it right down the middle, it rolls like hell. No, I remember playing one time with some friends. Well, you can hit it loud. It just rolls like
Right. You're going to photocopy this whole thing? Jen? You can do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's underway.
Tim, you're gonna rewind it.
I'll just start right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you're gonna hear what
Hey, Rose,
everybody's saying.
don't take that to the Chinese laundry.
Thank you, please, thank you. I don't know if any of you noticed, as you were driving in, my wife and I last Saturday saw a very nice article about our Reverend Bill Payton. Have a little round of applause for Bill Payton. You know, he's been such a good sport about all this. He's really a very, very humble guy. As my wife and children and I were driving into Lawrenceville to come to church service, I was looking at the paper and thinking what a humble guy Bill was, and I noticed that the sign was no longer Moon Road, that it had been in fact changed to Peyton Place. Seriously, folks. Take my wife, please. Oh, we had a little dress rehearsal last night, and the acts were wonderful. You know, if I could characterize the whole evening, what occurred to me was a remark my wife made to me on our wedding night. She said, Kev, what you lack in technique, you make up in enthusiasm. And I think that applies to all of that. Now, we've got a lot of terrific acts for you tonight. We've got music, we've got drama, we've got poetry, we've got everything you can imagine. We've got an animal act. Well, let me correct that. It's not an animal act, actually. You will see Lou Sibley making an ass of himself tonight. This is the next best thing. Well, speaking of making an ass of himself, I have the very special honor now of introducing my co-host. Will you please join me in a big round of applause for the newly crowned Ms. Episcopalian. Kathy Dorsey, this is a woman with a mind as deep as the Undercroft and a heavenly body to boot. Kathy, I understand this year's Ms. Episcopalian contest was held at the Cathedral of the Perpetually Intimidated Souls in Carmel Apple, California. Isn't Clint Eastwood the mayor of that town?
Yes, and he's also the senior warden of the cathedral. And he was the judge of the contest. And this year's theme was the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was outstanding in all three.
How's that? All right. Well, what do you think won it for you?
Well, it was down to the last 10 finalists. And it was tough considering we started with 5. Clint walked down the lineup, and I whispered in his ear, "Go ahead and make my day." I almost fainted.
Well, let's get on with our acts here. Kathy, let's get an introduction on our first one.
I want to tell you something. Dr. Joyce Brothers said the other day that when God made man, he stepped back and said, "Now I can do better than that." Praise for femitude. That's a cross between femininity and pulchritude. And we sure do have it with our ECW Raisinette. The plump, juicy, wrinkled a little, but here they come. Hit it, girls! Girls! How about the funky chicken?
Cut the Raisinette music, thank you. Our next act is a very funny man. This is a guy who's a stand-up comic. He's worked up his material in a really tough setting. This is an office setting where he's worked it up. Del he's been hit with paper clips in the eye, hot coffee on the lap. This guy's gotten paper cuts, and he's hoping for a more hospitable crowd here tonight. Would you join me in a round of applause and a few laughs, if you can spare them, for our man Del. Here we go.
Thank you. This is great, wonderful to be here tonight with all you people. But did y'all, when you came in, did you see the police cars out here? Well, this afternoon earlier, there was a fellow down on the square. He was driving around the square, and he stopped, and was said something to this pretty young lady walking along, and this lady evidently must have misunderstood what he said because she started yelling and screaming at him. And the guy got out of the car and went over trying to get her to shut up. She just kept yelling and screaming. And about that time, the Lawrenceburg police came up, and they jumped out, threw him to the ground, and cuffed this guy, threw him in the back of the car. Well, this guy must have broke loose or something because he kicked the door out and was last seen running down a scenic highway, and they turned in here on Moon Road and came back around up through there. If you want to see the guy, please sure to call the police. I hope I can get out of here. Anyway, if you see any suspicious characters, be sure to let them know. It is really great to be here at St. Edward's, this ministry of fun and fellowship. Father Peyton, of course, is one of the prime instigators of this. And, I was talking to Father Peyton this morning, and he mentioned that he had some lights on his house, and they thought they were just about to get it sold. And I asked him, I said, well, since this is so close, why did you choose to move out to Lawrenceville? And he said, well, he was been reading some articles. And he found out that 90% of all accidents happen within 15 miles of home, so he decided to move. One laugh, that's all I need. But also, Father Peyton is really a very serious guy, and I found out something else about him this morning. He's an optimist. We were sitting outside chatting, and I said, look, Father Peyton, there's a dead bird over there. And he said, wait. I don't know. That's why I found out he's an optimist. There's a lot of great people here in this parish, and one of the ones I've also got to know is Denny Goodwin. And one thing I found out about Denny is that Denny is a great horseback rider, and I didn't know that. And we were talking, and I said, well, Denny, I've never ridden a horse, and I'd like for you to take me out and show me how to do that. And he said, well, sure, come meet me at the church this afternoon, and we'll go down. It's where I keep my horse, and I'll show you how to ride it. So I did, and we did. And he went down, got on the horse, and he started riding. He was doing real good, riding along there. And I thought, that's great. And all of a sudden, the horse started going a little faster, and then he got off balance, and he was falling around, he was hanging around the neck up, and I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. I've never been around horses. But about that time, the manager at Kmart came out and pulled the plug. Might save mine, too, because after I see Denny later. This is really a fun group. One of the other fellows that, I don't know how many of you in Foyers. I see some of you here tonight in my Foyer group, and we really have a nice Foyer group. We was over at Richard Moore's house the other month, and Richard served a real nice pork roast, and I thought that was really nice. And I was talking to him about this pork roast, and he said, well, he raises pigs. I said, well, that's fantastic. Is this yours? He said, yeah. And I said, well, where do you raise them? He said, back here in the back of where I live. I said, well, this is sort of a restricted neighborhood. He said, yeah, but it's outside the city, so it's not a problem. So we went down to where he keeps his pigs, and I noticed one of the pigs had a wooden leg. I said, Richard, what about this pig with a wooden leg? And Richard said, this is the most intelligent, kind, and wonderful pig that you've ever seen in your life. He said, why, this pig, my house was on fire one night. And this pig broke out of the pen, knocked the door down in the house, came in, woke me and my family up and led us to safety. I said, that is fantastic. But what about his wooden leg? He said, let me tell you something else about this pig. He says, back behind here there's a creek, and it was after the rain, the creek was up, and this pig, there was some kids playing down behind there, and one of them fell in the water, and this pig broke out of his pen, jumped in the water, and saved that child's life. I said, that's great, but what about his wooden leg? He said, well, when you got a pig this intelligent, brave, and wonderful, you sort of hate to serve him and eat him all at once. One other thing that we found out here, I met one of the members of the church before, can't remember here. I was driving up Highway 20 as I was going along the road toward Beaufort. I noticed a chicken was coming up behind me on the road. I looked down at my speedometer, I was doing 50 miles an hour. And this chicken was gaining on me. And, well, I sped up. And the chicken sped up and went right on by me. And as it went by me, I noticed the chicken had 5 legs. And I thought that was mighty odd, and it got my curiosity up, so I started trying to follow the chicken. I was doing about 75, 80 miles an hour up Highway 20. You know how difficult that is. So the chicken rolled into Beaufort. It ran up, it ran into this person's yard, and ran under his house. And I went up and knocked on the door because I wanted to see about this 5-legged chicken. And it was John Forstall came to the door. I said, John, I didn't know John at the time, but I said, would you tell me about this 5-legged chicken I just saw run out of your house? I've never seen anything like it. And he said, oh, I raise them. I got a whole breed of them that I've bred, and I have them all the time. I said, well, why do you have 5-legged chickens? He said, well, there's 5 of us in my family. And we all like the drumstick. We wouldn't eat anything else. And they said we were always wasting meat, and of course I'm an accountant, and I don't like to waste anything. And we was always having this wasted meat, so I bred this string of 5-legged chicken. I said, well, that's great. I said, what did it taste like? He said, I don't know. I never caught one. That means to hurry up. Well, one last tale. When I was in high school, I was in biology class, and my teacher asked me to describe the spine. So I stood up and I said, the spine is what covers and supports the spinal cord. The medulla oblongata, the cerebral cortex is on one end, and the other end is where I sit down.